Good evening, everyone. It's 5:30. We'll call this public meeting to order. Councillor Jeff Lackey sends his regrets this evening. I have not heard from Councillor Maybe. I expect he'll still be along. And I should state as well, our Mayor, Karina Smith-Gatke, is away on holidays and will not be here this evening. Members of council, anybody have any pecuniary interest or general nature thereof to declare for the public meeting? If not, we'll move on. The purpose of public meeting, there's a declaration here I'll read. Personal information collected at this public hearing is collected under the authority of the Planning Act and will be used to assist in the making of a decision on this matter. All names, addresses, opinions, and comments are collected and form part of the minutes, which will be available to the public. Questions regarding this collection should be forwarded to the Director of Planning. The purpose of public meetings is to present planning applications in a public forum as required by the Planning Act. Following presentation by the applicant or staff, council members will have an opportunity to ask questions for clarification or further information. The meeting will then be open to the public for comments and questions. When you speak, please provide your name and your address for the recording in the minutes. All comments should be directed to the chair of the meeting. The applicant will be provided the opportunity to address public questions once all members of the public have made their submissions. For the applications being presented tonight, a report and recommendation will be presented to council at a later date. Following a council decision, notice will be circulated in accordance with the Planning Act. If a person or public body would have an ability to appeal the decision of the council to the Ontario Land Tribunal, but the person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or written submissions to the township before the bylaw is passed, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision. At this time, we'll begin this public meeting, and Director of Planning, are we moving forward with the agenda as presented in order here at D09-01-2021? Okay. This I'll read that again. D09-01-2021 official plan amendment, Z-2020-006 zoning bylaw amendment, and D12-01-2020 subdivision, and in brackets UGLG, United Counties Leeds Grenville file number for draft plan of subdivisions 08-T-20204, vacant land 08-1-2-812-030-23200-000. At this point, I'll turn it over to our Director of Planning and Development, Marnie Venditti. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you. A notice of this public meeting has been provided in accordance with the Planning Act, and that included signage posted on the subject property and notice being mailed to all owners of property located within 120 meters of the subject land. To date, following the issuance of that notice, staff have not received any written correspondence. Staff have prepared a sign-in sheet for a mailing list to be created. So if there are members of the public interested in this application and want to be notified of any future meetings or decisions, there's a sign-in sheet located at the front counter that if you could please add your contact information on your way out, that would be appreciated. The technical review of the applications is ongoing, and we have a representative of the applicant, Ms. Jones from Vacant Consultants here this evening to provide a presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Lindsay. I erred. Lindsay is our senior planner, and you're basically heading this section up, I gather.
Yes, I'm the assigned planner for the applications.
Okay, thank you. Okay, welcome again. You're becoming a familiar face in our chamber, but that's okay. The floor is yours.
Thank you, and through your worship, yes, very, very familiar with all of you as of late. Bear with me for 1 second. Hey, well, good evening, members of the public, council, and staff. My name is Kelsey Jones, and I'm a registered professional planner with FO10 Planning and Design in Kingston. I'm here this evening on behalf of the applicant to present applications for official plan amendment, zoning bylaw amendment, and draft plan of subdivision for the lands legally described as Part Lot 18 Concession 2, located in the southeast portion of Lansdowne. To briefly start, the image on this slide provides an overview of our client's entire land holdings. The Lansdowne Village boundary is identified in blue, and our client's land holdings are identified and outlined in red, and generally cover the southern half of the village. Initial planning applications were submitted in 2020 and proposed development of the majority of the land holdings outlined in red. But due to servicing constraints identified through the technical review with staff, the proposal has been scaled back and the development is now proposed in phases with the intention to proceed with future phases of the development through separate future planning applications. The applications being presented this evening relate to the smaller red area shown on this slide. The lands are located in the southeast portion of Lansdowne, north of County Road 2, south of the CN rail line, and west of County Road 3. The surrounding area is generally comprised of residential, commercial, and light industrial uses. And the majority of commercial development and activity is concentrated along the main streets of Lansdowne to the north. And then the lands are also in proximity to a range of amenities, including Thousand Islands Elementary School, the Lansdowne Fairground, and Jerry Park to the north. The lands are currently vacant and have an area of approximately 23 hectares and approximately 498 meters of frontage on County Road 3. And the image on this slide just provides a little bit closer context image of the subject lands outlined in red. The image on this slide shows that the lands are designated urban settlement area in the United Counties official plan. This land use designation is intended as the primary center for growth, development, and urban activities. And it's intended to be the focus for a wide range of land uses such as residential, commercial, institutional, industrial, and recreational. The lands are designated residential and highway commercial in the township official plan. The residential designation is intended to support low density residential built forms, and the highway commercial designation is intended to support commercial uses that serve the needs of residents and the traveling public. And I will also note there's a section of the official plan that provides direction for plans of subdivision, and currently that official plan policy limits subdivision developments to approximately 20 lots per phase. The image on this slide shows that the lands are zoned first residential density with a holding symbol. This existing zone generally permits low density residential uses, including single detached, semi, and duplex dwellings, as well as group homes. The purpose of these applications is to develop the lands with a mixed-use subdivision. A total of 76 residential lots are proposed, 61 of which are intended for single detached dwellings, and 15 of which will be for semi-detached dwellings. And these are shown in the yellow on the slide. 2 commercial blocks are proposed along the County Road 3 frontage, and these are shown on the slide in red. The north commercial block is intended as an interim stormwater management block until future phases of the subdivision are developed and a more consolidated stormwater management area can be established. There's a parkland block proposed in the east portion of the subdivision shown in green. A new municipal road is proposed, access from County Road 3 with a few dead ends to the south and east intended for connection to future phases of the subdivision. And through these applications, it's also intended to establish the policy framework necessary to support future phases of the subdivision. The proposed official plan amendment seeks to redesignate a portion of the lands from residential to highway commercial to align with the location of the two commercial blocks proposed. And it's also proposed to establish a special exemption official plan policy area. And the intent of this is to allow the first phase and subsequent phases of the subdivision to have approximately 76 residential lots rather than the 20 that are currently permitted by the official plan. The proposed zoning bylaw amendment seeks to rezone the lands to 4 new site-specific zones. There are 2 residential zones proposed for the residential areas to generally allow more compact residential development and lots. There's a highway commercial zone proposed for the 2 commercial blocks and seeks to allow 2 site-specific provisions related to minimum accessible parking requirements to align with the AOTA, as well as allowing a temporary stormwater management use on that north commercial block. There's an open space zone proposed, and it seeks to limit the permitted uses of that block to a park, passive outdoor recreation, a sports field, and or a trail system. And as well, there are holding provisions proposed for the residential and the commercial zones related to demonstrating future servicing capacity. The intention of the overall plan is to subdivide the land so that each residential dwelling is on its own lot, with the intention that the future semi-detached dwelling blocks would be further subdivided to allow each unit to be freehold. And the subdivision will also establish the commercial blocks, the parkland and pedestrian pathway block, as well as the right-of-way and municipal reserve blocks for the road and future road connections, which would ultimately be dedicated to the township. So in summary, the proposed official plan amendment, zoning bylaw amendment, and draft plan of subdivision seek to develop vacant land within the Lansdowne Village area. These applications will support additional residential opportunity within the village, along with providing additional commercial and park spaces. The lands are in proximity to existing open space, commercial, residential, and service uses. And these will support the subdivision. And as well, the proposal is consistent with the provincial policy statement and conform to the United Counties and Township official plan. And overall, it is my opinion that the proposal represents good land use planning. And with that, I thank everyone for their attention, and myself and my colleague Mike Keene, who's here with me this evening, would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. If I may, can I ask for a minor clarification? When you were giving the bullet points of the geographical, you stated west of County Road 3. It would be east of, correct?
Yes, apologies, that's correct.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to clarify that. There will be a number of people on Zoom that might not have the quality of picture we have here. And we just didn't want anybody coming away confused.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you for that presentation. Members of council, questions, please. Councilor Maybe.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. One of my questions is during this proposal and going through the plans that are present to us, there's about 3 or 4 different renditions of proposals. And on phase 2 of this particular subdivision, there's another ring around road kind of at the east side to the north. Is there a plan for another roadway connecting to Railway Street from that subdivision? That's my biggest question, mainly for the safety of the residents, because again, you end up with a bottleneck between subdivisions if emergency incurs and there's no exiting point or way to get emergency vehicles into the secondary subdivision or cul-de-sac. It's not really a cul-de-sac either, but just making sure that the safety of the public are attended to in the case that one link road between the 2 developments gets shut down for some reason.
Through your worship, thank you for that question. To date, while there have been some renditions of the future phases, they really haven't been solidified at this point. And due to the servicing considerations that are now needed to be addressed, we haven't fully designed what those future phases will look like. But certainly if traffic or an additional connection is determined to be necessary through, the traffic impact study and updates to that, that would certainly be something that would be explored and established should it be necessary.
Okay, thank you for that. Just checking my notes, see if I had anything else on it. Sorry. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I think that's it.
Other members of council, Councillor Grawl.
Excuse me, through you, your worship, just for clarity for the public, because we've read, this has been before us for quite some time. I wonder if we could just touch on, again, for the public, why it's down to 91 residences on 76 lots with its impact specifically from servicing, because that has been a major consideration so that we do not have to expand our servicing in the village, if I'm not mistaken. So if you could just address that again for the general public. Thank you.
Certainly. Thank you, through your worship. I will do my best to start, but perhaps if staff have anything to add. So it's my understanding that the village has reached or is about to reach the 80% servicing allocation that the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks permits municipalities to get to. So the proposed 76 lots are within the existing and remaining 80% servicing allocation. So that's why the 76 are being proposed at this point. And should anything in future be brought forward, the existing servicing would need to be reviewed and addressed. But that's also part of the reason why the holding provisions are proposed for the commercial and the residential zones, to ensure that that servicing capacity is available at the time of final approval. Because if the servicing doesn't exist, then the lots will not be able to be developed.
Thank you. And I can't wait for you to put shovels in the ground. Thank you.
Any other members of council with questions? Planning Department, did you have anything you wanted to add at this point? No? Members of the public, feel free to come forward. We're sharing the same table, are we? So we'll have to ask our guests to step sideways. Any member of the public, please come forward, state your name and address just for the record, if you will, and feel free to ask your question.
There have been drainage young on railway street, my land, land, funeral land. What's up is the subdivision going to be, drainage over there, there's a habitat, one large swamp there, then one stuff where that water like to go. How our land will be drained once you put that subdivision currently goes off our land and down towards center and you're plugging that out. We got to place to bring our water. The question is, we put this subdivision in there. Like the fences are now just open by farm fence. We'll have to beat 5-foot fence one end to the other.
Members of the Planning Department wish to answer Mr. Wyburn's question? Go ahead.
Thank you, through you. If we could take all of the questions from the public and then address them at the end, we'll take notes.
Oh, okay, we could do it that way. All right. All the questions will be addressed at the end. Is that okay? Okay.
Sure. Trains are getting longer. Crossing goes longer. Lineups are from railway tracks, lots of times past the beer store. And then they're going to congregate even more traffic. So long trains are there for a long period of time. Back up the main street of the hill. What that's going to do for our response to fire.
Thank you. Any other members of the public wish to ask a question, make a statement? We have a lot of knowledge in the room tonight on this subject. If you would, if you have any thoughts at all, please come forward. We'll just ask you, if you will, to take a seat. That microphone is active, and for those online might have trouble hearing the questions or statements. Thanks.
Outlet Road, Rolly Search 2312 Outlet Road. Concerning the stormwater, I see you've got ponding set up for that. The affluents, am I correct in assuming it's going to be pumped over to our lagoons that we have now? And if so, will it be going across railway, or will it come out to 3 and under the railroad? Is one portion. The other portion of my question is, will the developers put this system through, or will this be a taxpayer's on our bill?
Rolly,
Thank
do you have any follow-up questions or statements? No?
Those were the two. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I'm just wondering if the houses on the west side of the development will be forced into sewer.
Excuse me, can you just check to make sure the green light is on the mic?
On.
Okay,
Oh, sorry. Do you want me to start?
please,
Yeah.
if you repeat that, please.
Brandy Morton, 926 Prince Street.
Okay.
So I am just wondering if the houses on the west side of the street will be forced into sewer and water services, because we're currently septic and well. That's my first question to clarify. And then if the second question would be if the developer is going to support infrastructure in the schools, daycare system, things like that, that are already quite limited in the area.
Just for clarity, your location is south of the LCBO, correct?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Just make sure that green light is on there, sir.
Good evening, Brian McCullough from 53 Railway Street in the village. Same concerns as Butch. Everybody on the south side of Railway, from actually Butch's place all the way down to the corner, we all flood consistently, year after year, spring, summer, winter, deluge of rain, snow melt, water everywhere. The township hasn't done nothing to alleviate any of that. And with this subdivision going in, I'm just worried that it's just going to make it all worse for us, because right now we're pumping all this water away from our places over the ridge behind us to the south to get rid of all the water. So I just want to make sure that the township addresses all of this drainage before they let this subdivision go ahead and start building lots. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Here we go.
Hi, Elisa Stilson, 914 Prince Street.
Just bring the microphone a little closer to you. Thank you.
Elisa Stilson, 914 Prince Street. Just what Brandy was saying too with the childcare, and I know that the schools are at full capacity and that at this point, I think, what is it, from grade 6 on, they have to go into GAN. So, you know, with all of us with younger children, and now with 76 homes, where are all they supposed to go?
Okay, thank you. Bill, go ahead.
My name is Bill Greer, 175 Railway Street, Lansdowne. And the only thing I'd like to say, I promote everything that these developers are doing. It's long overdue to get something in the Lansdowne area. And if council should happen to turn this down, I would be very disappointed in them. I know there's a lot of ifs, ands, and buts that you have to do, but this village and this municipality is long overdue for some growth. I would be more than happy to see it happen. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else like to ask a question, make a statement? Do we have anyone online? No one? If there is anyone online listening in and you wish to ask a question, just hit that wave your hand icon down at the bottom of your screen. If you move your mouse around, it'll light up for you. I don't see anyone there. Last chance. Anybody have a thought? We'll turn it back to the planning department. Did you want to address some of these questions now, or are you going to do this at a later date? Marnie?
I'll leave it to the applicant to address some, and then if they don't answer if there's any outstanding, we'll follow up.
Okay, fair enough.
Thank you, and through your worship, and thank you to all the members of the public that provided comments and statements this evening. So I'll start, and then I'll see if my colleague has anything, and then if township staff have anything to add. In terms of the comments regarding drainage, the drainage study and flooding, so a grading plan will be a condition of final approval. And it's my understanding that it will need to demonstrate that no flooding or impacts to neighboring or adjacent properties will occur as a result of the development. So that'll be prepared by a professional engineer and reviewed by the township engineering department to ensure that there's no adverse impacts to any adjacent properties. And it's also my understanding that I believe the township has initiated or provided an RFP for a drainage study in Lansdowne. So I believe that maybe some of the concerns will be addressed through the township and that study. In terms of the comment about the wildlife area and protected areas, so an environmental impact study has been completed to assess the development and review the subject lands. So that's been initiated, and we're also in the process of reviewing comments with the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks to address some habitat considerations. So that work is ongoing and will be a condition of final approval. In terms of the privacy fence along kind of the boundaries of the subdivision and to the north, should it be required, it will be a condition of draft approval. It's typical that construction fencing at a minimum is established. So that will likely be a condition of draft approval. In terms of the additional people and traffic and rail crossings. So CN Rail was circulated on the application, so they are aware of the current phase of development as well as potential subsequent phases. So they're aware, and should they need to make any adjustments, I'm going to leave that with them. But a traffic impact study has been completed, so the recommendations of that will be incorporated as conditions of final approval. In terms of stormwater management and effluent crossing, it will go out to County Road 3 for this phase of the development. The question regarding houses on the west side of Prince being switched to municipal, I'll leave that to staff to potentially address. Regarding support for community infrastructure and providing additional funding. So the school boards, to my understanding, would have been circulated on the proposed applications either by the township or the United Counties. So the school board will be aware of the applications, and should additional space or new facility, that would be something that they would determine and undertake. And I think that covers everything. Just pass it over to my colleague.
Through you, your worship, just add one point on the drainage as well. And just for the benefit of the neighbors that live in this area. If your water flows onto our clients' lands, that is something that our engineer calculates and when they're flowing. And generally speaking, the lands and the water will flow to the west. They will actually eventually flow west of County Road 3, outside the urban boundary, and further to the west. That's kind of the low point of the land. So that's the way it's going to be directed. So the quality of water has to be controlled, and our engineer designs ponds to do that. So they collect the water and then they slow drain it away from the land. So there would be no flow to the north to Railway Street. So I'd like to think that we'll see an improvement through the development to those lands, in addition to the work that Ms. Jones mentioned about the work that the township's doing on its master drainage work. Turn it to staff on the remaining.
Excuse me, thank you. Our planning department, did you want to address one or two questions that are still left there?
Sure, through you. With respect to the houses on the west side of Prince Street, they will not be required to connect to services through this proposal. We can't alter your existing servicing based on this. So it's just the current proposal that will be required to connect to municipal water and sanitary. I'd just also add that the traffic impact study has been peer reviewed. So there's a third party looking at that, just as there's also been a third party looking at the servicing and the stormwater related to the subdivision on behalf of the township and the counties. And I think that addresses the questions.
Thank you. That concludes this portion of the public planning meeting. If there's no more questions from anyone, I want to thank everybody for your questions, participation. This is the whole point, of course, of a public meeting, is to gather all these information pieces, and the staff will culminate all this in any aspect that's moved forward from this point on. We'll move forward with 3.2 on tonight's planning meeting, D09-2023-003 TLTI official plan amendment, community improvement project areas. Lindsay, did you want to speak to this?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you, confirming that notice of this public meeting was provided in accordance with the Planning Act, and that included notice in the newspaper. To date, staff have not received any written correspondence, and our consultant, township's consultant, Mr. McPhail, is online to provide an overview of the applications. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any members of council have any questions on the community improvement plan? Councilor, maybe.
Thank you. No, go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Okay, sorry. No, go ahead.
Jesse, if you'd like to go ahead.
Oh, my apologies. Wasn't sure if you were talking to me. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening, members of council and members of the public who tuned in here tonight. I'm just going to share my screen. I have a very brief presentation here, just to go over the official plan amendment that's being brought forward to a public meeting tonight. So as was mentioned, my name is Jesse McPhail. I'm an urban planner with Republic Urbanism. So our firm is currently working on developing the township's new community improvement plan with our partners Parcel Economics. So this application that's being brought forward today is more kind of a technical amendment that we're seeking, that has been recommended to the township's official plan to help facilitate one of the main recommendations that came out of the background report and consultation that was carried out in the summer for the community improvement plan. So really, this is more of a technical kind of aspect of that process. Council and members of the public will have a further chance in the near future to take a look at the actual community improvement plan itself, the draft, and review that. So tonight we're just kind of dealing with the area within which that plan will apply to. So in terms of the context, so again, the township's currently undertaking the development of a new community improvement plan. And just for context, these plans are meant to be implemented within what are called community improvement project areas, or CEPAs for short. So these areas are designated by council as an area that is desirable for improvement. And this can be for reasons of dilapidation or wanting to beautify areas or spur investment. So it can be a range of reasons. So the Planning Act allows council to designate these CEPAs anywhere in the municipality, including the entirety of the municipality itself. So traditionally, municipalities have done main streets or downtown cores, but in recent years, a lot of communities have expanded the scope of community improvement planning to deal with rural areas and agritourism and ecological areas. But the kind of thing to note here is that a community improvement plan that is prepared can only be prepared for and implemented within an identified community improvement project area. So you identify the area and then you prepare that plan to be implemented within it. So currently the township's official plan, specifically section 953, it does include criteria-based policies for the designation of these areas. But so the current township OP only allows for the designation of Lansdowne, Lyndhurst, Rockport, and Sealy's Bay as community improvement project areas. So these criteria and these specific areas are based on community visioning exercises that were undertaken in 2017 as part of the township's official plan review. Now, in terms of the issue that we kind of faced and kind of came to light as part of the background work and the consultation that was carried out, was that through that work, there was found to be a desire for supporting community improvement projects outside, in addition to those areas that are identified outside of those areas. So in the rural areas and the lake areas and the waterfront areas. So this was members of the community as well as our findings in doing that review. We found that there was a desire to expand that. So the issue here is that current official plan policy won't allow actually for the designation of the entire municipality as a community improvement project area. So that in a sense limits where we can implement the new community improvement plan. And so by association, if we were to keep the current policies, it would only be able to be implemented in Rockport, Lansdowne, Lyndhurst, and Sealy's Bay. We wouldn't be able to offer things like improvement incentives or financing improvement projects under this plan outside of those areas. So if those other areas could be designated as a community improvement project area, then the CIP can be applied to them. So as part of the recommendations for the background report and the consultation that were carried out, one of the recommendations was the identification of the entire municipality as a community improvement project area. So this would allow council and municipal staff the flexibility to offer grant programming, incentives, and implementing public projects outside of those areas, as well as the settlement areas, to achieve the kind of vision and goals that were established through the background process. So specifically, the proposal seeks to amend section 953 of the official plan to be less prescriptive in speaking to those specific settlement areas. It would seek to revise the text of the official plan to better be aligned with the language used in the Planning Act. So the Planning Act does allow for the municipality to designate the entire municipality. And the amendments, again, would allow council mainly to enjoy more discretion and flexibility as to where community improvement projects can be carried out. So while the amendment is at this time kind of largely related to the current development of the new township community improvement plan, it wouldn't necessarily preclude the township from identifying more specific areas in the future. So if there was a very specific area or topic in the community that was wanting to be addressed through its own plan, that can take place as well. So in terms of the specific amendment, I won't read over the entire thing here. Members of council and staff have a report with the attached proposal. But in essence, you can see on the left side, it's just speaking to the current wording, detailing that the 4 settlement areas are the only areas that can be designated as community improvement project areas, whereas the new text would seek to kind of bring that up a level and say that council can designate the whole or any part of the township if such studies and consultation have been undertaken to justify that identification. So really, in closing, these minor textual amendments to this one specific policy section of the official plan speaking to community improvement, it'll just allow the township to offer a greater range and catalog of incentives and not be as handcuffed to the four key areas that are currently restricted. So I will pass it back to the chair, and I'm happy to answer any questions or comments.
Thank you, Mr. McPhail. Members of council, do you have questions for Mr. McPhail? Councilor Maybe.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. At the time of the OP being passed, there were some of us at the table who did feel that it wasn't quite complete at that time. And this was one of the things that was brought up, is that we were only targeting the settlement areas for any development, even though the question was asked. So I'm glad to see that this one's coming back and being put to the whole township so that we can look after places like Escott or Willowbank or any other little borough that's still got some development possibilities, and that we can attribute some of that condition to them. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions, council? Planning department, did you want to add? No? You're getting off easy tonight, Mr. McPhail. The presentation was complete enough. Thank you.
Sounds good, Mr. Chair. And I will say that we are working hard to get that draft done, and we're looking very forward to bringing that back to council in the future and the public. So thank you.
Well, you're getting things confined now to a certain directive for sure in the last number of meetings. So we look forward to your next visitation here. Thank you.
Thank you.
If there are no other questions, I have a motion to adjourn the public meeting, moved by Councillor Kelman, seconded by Councillor Jamieson. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. We will break until the council meeting at 6:30. Thank you.